People. Us?
No, the people are the
Neighbors?
people who appear at the hearing later on tonight, or at the discussion later on tonight.
So is this published as a hearing? Or is
No.
it just, they're just coming in to talk to us about it now, they haven't actually?
They say it's a,
This is
State
an amendment.
minimus? They're saying it's
Site
state
plan approval.
Yeah.
I didn't send it to the newspaper, but I did send the legal notice
I got one
to-
today. I got it
You know,
today.
to
I'm
all of the
done.
abutters, and I reached way out to the abutters.
right.
We sent out a ton of, I wanna say they were,
No, I got it yesterday. I got it yesterday.
I
Yesterday.
mailed it before I left,
So
before the storm.
part of what we need to decide is whether or not it requires a public hearing, is that correct? Do you think it's
No.
de minimis? Or?
No, I think that we need to, we are going to treat this as a non-substantial amendment, but we're going to, even though we're treating it as a non-substantial, are you getting cold now?
I was just wondering where the draft was coming from, that's all. No, it's okay, I just
Well-
couldn't figure out what it was. Like, there's air, is the window broken?
If you get hot again, just let me know, we'll
It
open
was
it.
78 in here and.
Was it really?
Oh, yeah.
No, it wasn't a problem at all, I just couldn't figure out where it was coming from, yeah.
Where the nice,
Yeah,
where the
I
cool,
like it hot.
Exactly, I mean, where's that breeze? It's springtime.
Wait, Emily, look up.
I know.
well, what do
But
you
it wasn't
think,
that, it was
Mike? How are
the
we
one in the
doing?
back. That's what was.
What?
like-
All set, we're not live, we're just taped.
Okay, you're all set?
Yep, we're moving where.
Okay, we're ready.
Are you doing that riveting warrant committee from last night?
No, they met until 11:15 and they adjourned.
9:15?
11.
11:15, oh, good God.
I watched it.
11:40.
11,
Was that live last night?
no,
Oh, so I watched the tape then.
watch the tape, yeah. You're all set on this.
All right.
Okay. Good stuff.
You really showed your smarts on East Milton. I'll tell you, I'm saying, boy, Bill is.
All right, but we're now going to go into the planning board meeting let me see if I can find my agenda.
February 14th.
Welcome to this meeting of the Milton Planning Board. This is our 18th meeting of the fiscal year 2013. And tonight we're going to tape this meeting and broadcast it at an appropriate time. And I'm Alex Whiteside, the chairman, and with me are Ed,
Duffy, member?
Emily Ennis, member?
Bernie Lynch, member?
William Clark, planning director.
Michael Cohen, member?
all right. Now, what we've all been waiting for these many months is we're going to try and do the minutes of October 18th. Has everyone looked at the minutes of October 18th? I will take silence as an affirmative.
I will move the minutes of October 18th.
All right. And Mike, I think you seconded that.
I did. I'm glad you noticed.
Do we have any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Those minutes.
How about opposed?
Oh, any opposed?
No.
Oh. Well,
You know the reasons why.
Can I move the minutes of January 24th, and we can get all of these done?
okay. You can, the 24th is, I've looked at it, and it's really in order.
Excellent.
So, Mike, did I hear a second to that motion?
Yes.
This time we're going to try for unanimity. All in favor? Aye. It's unanimous.
I wasn't here.
Oh, all right.
You get
I don't know
to,
where it was. Oh,
One abstention.
my wife.
right, you had a reasonable.
Yeah, I had it. Yeah.
All right, February 7th. I will move the minutes to February 7th.
Have you read them?
No, I'm skimming through them now. I just didn't realize I missed these.
Why don't we
Table them?
postpone those
Okay.
until next time?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good.
All right. Now, we're going into, our next meeting is going to be on the 28th. And I've been invited to discuss the DCR Bourne with some interested people. And so I may be a little late
Okay.
on the 28th, but I should be here by 6:50. And I'm sure that you can get along without me quite satisfactorily. Having witnessed part of your meeting last week.
Sounds good. And we're in the Carol Blute Conference Room for both of the next two meetings?
That is the current plan.
All right, sounds good.
Now.
They're, much to Frank's chagrin, there will be a double meeting of the selectmen and the planning board on the 28th. So you'll be downstairs, the selectmen will be here.
Now, what is the reason for this, Mr. Clark?
Downstairs.
Have you told the selectmen about how they're supposed to be the first and third Thursdays? And is it their vacation schedule is conflicting with the first and
It
third?
is school vacation week next week,
It is
so.
partly a
Yeah.
vacation issue. Mr. Cohen is,
You probably don't need to say who's on
that's all right.
vacation. with.
He's winging his way to vacation right now.
Across the pond.
And he is due back on the 28th, so they had
Fair
to
enough.
push themselves
Push
out of
themselves
their-
into our
into
space.
Your space.
All right.
If I can just say something, Mr. Chairman, when we televise the planning board from the basement, here's Michael, a lot of the equipment has to be reassembled, and reassembling connectors and so forth, you might not get it 100%. So we're in the process of trying to refurbish that room, spend a few bucks. Almost every time we've been down there, something has happened to the tape. And so I think would,
If the selectmen could stick to their schedule,
see, we want to do what we did here down in the basement.
Oh,
basement
with the
conference.
screens? That's a
Yeah.
great
But it's
idea.
$45,000. Do you want to
Right.
spend $45,000?
well, sure, let's,
Alex is all for it.
Well, it doesn't come off the tax. It comes
Right.
from the cable bill. But that's the
Certainly
problem.
sparing no expense on the heat.
It is very warm.
all right. Well, we can address the heat.
Plus, the selectmen will meet downstairs and let them get.
I suspect the selectmen would not be agreeable to that, them being the Board of Selectmen, and, you know.
But the planning board,
Let me
thousands of
keep-
people are watching this every week. I mean,
I don't know, have we ever checked the ratings of the Board of Selectmen versus the Planning Board?
All right.
If you go downstairs, it's freezing. Just because it's hot up here doesn't mean it's
it is
warm down
freezing.
there.
That's right.
All right. Well, I don't think we will go downstairs tonight. That was supposed to happen last week, except you were supposed to go upstairs.
We were upstairs.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
okay.
can
Then
go
you
any
were,
further up.
then you were supposed to go downstairs. Okay. So, and we're going to meet on March 14th and March 28th, our usual days, second and fourth Thursdays. Okay. Now, yes.
Bill, do you want to mention the Holy Cross at all?
You do. You have the Citizen Planner Training Collaborative that I gave to each of you. So far, Emily and Ed have signed up.
Good job.
I am pushing that everybody take and seriously look, and if you can go. It is it's very worthwhile.
And you're driving the van. planning board band.
Really?
I've been to them in the past, and they are useful.
We
They are
get-
very
if-
useful.
If all 5 of you will go, I will get the van.
What about Jean? Can Jean come?
Jean can come too. I've already asked
And
her.
eat at this Italian restaurant that, Al?
I have already, asked her.
Planning
I
board
can't-
field trip?
You see, I don't travel without the dog, and she would be a lot of fun in the band, but
I'm not sure
She'd
Mr.
be a lot of
Rolls
fun
would
in
feel the
meetings,
same.
too.
all right, so we'll figure these logistics out.
But if
Now
all
we're-
5 of you go, I will get the van.
Okay.
Is there a deadline to sign up?
Yes. It was a deadline.
When is the deadline?
It says it right there somewhere.
What does it say?
I don't know.
March 6th.
They selling
Say
tickets
March
at the
6th.
door?
March 6th?
I don't think you
think it's
can
something like
go
that.
at the door. I think you have to
It's
register
in
in
the
advance,
flyer
because the
somewhere.
payment comes from the
Friday,
town.
March
March
8th.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
The
it's in our
deadline
budget
is
to
Friday,
pay for
March
these
8th.
courses.
Okay.
Absolute.
All right, well, make sure that you don't, that you remind any people who haven't signed up on the
Know that the
28th.
zoning board of appeals is looking at it. I
Okay.
know that the selectmen have it too.
All right, now we are at that part of our meeting where interested citizens get to address the board on matters of relevance to the board. And any citizens out there who want to be heard? All right. Seeing none, we will pass on to the discussion of, or I guess it's time for a public hearing, isn't it? But are we waiting for Mr. Ned Corcoran to arrive?
He tells me it'll be around 7.
He says he's going to be, and it's
He just
now
sent me-
6:52, but that's fine. Bill, we're going to give him a little time, because we're going to now discuss the alternate planning board member recommended by the government study group. And as you recall, last weekend on your agenda, there was,
Last week, not weekend.
last week,
Yeah.
there was on the agenda a meeting with the government advisory study group. And the reason was they said, come and discuss it. And we thought that was a good idea, that we ask questions and we give our own opinions. And on a recommendation that the planning board be given a 6th member. But the 6th member would be an alternate and would only act in the event another member, a regular member, wasn't there, couldn't act, was disqualified, whatever. There was a question of if there were an alternate member, should he or she be elected, or should he or she be appointed, and if appointed, by whom? The government study group suggested that maybe an appointed member by the selectmen and planning board sitting in joint session would be appropriate. So this was on the agenda, and since I was not invited to participate in the early part of the agenda, I didn't come to the meeting, so I sent the government study group a email in which I said, there is a possible benefit to having a qualified alternate member standing in from time to time. But I thought that the alternate member should definitely be elected. And then I cautioned that I didn't see how anyone worth their salt would want to be a non-voting alternate member on the planning board, and that we probably wouldn't get talent of the highest caliber as alternate member. And don't get me wrong, I could be wrong, and we might get a wonderfully qualified person. But I have a feeling that electing someone to sit through our meetings and not get to vote on anything that we do, except in circumstances where another member is not acting or present, I just don't see that that would be much of a fan draw. So I suggested to the study group that my conclusion was that the system is not really broken right now, and I think that tinkering with it, it would be a bad idea. But I suggest that you folks, you members, can communicate your own personal views to the study commission, and then the board can, on the 28th, take a formal stand if it wants to. Or we can just let it go with the individual opinions. So how does that sound?
When you communicated with them,
Yeah.
did they give any indication as to how this recommendation was going to be made? Are they going to do one big report that goes to the Board of Selectmen with all of their recommendations? I was a little disappointed because rather than us basically adjourning our meeting downstairs and leaving the camera in the room and going downstairs, I think if they are going to make a recommendation that affects our board, it would make sense to make that recommendation in our normal meeting on camera so that people understand their reasoning and can hear the debate back and forth. And so I'm wondering if if prior to them making the recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, if there is going to be a chance for some sort of public debate or question over what the recommendations are and why they're being made. Because it feels a little one-sided now. We're getting the communication, we're responding to it, but we're not getting that back and
well,
forth.
it's their recommendation. They
Right, of
said
course.
if you'd like to discuss it with us, fine. If you don't want to discuss it with us, don't.
And I'm happy to discuss it. I think that's
I
an
mean,
excellent idea. I just want to do it in public.
At a previous time, I invited them to one of our meetings, and I encountered some resistance since it's their recommendation, and they were inviting us to join them to discuss their recommendation or their possible recommendation. But I can certainly say that re-invite them to a member, but a meeting of the board. But I have, my feeling is that they weren't much interested in doing it that way.
So is there going to be, do you know if, because you may not
And I
know this, you don't know if
have
there's
any
going to be
idea
any
how
sort of,
their- how
okay.
their- what their procedure is going to be. I just know that they said, would you like to discuss this recommendation and give us some input?
Because I understand, I mean, the charge of the Government Study Committee is a broad charge. It's an important role, and I appreciate that. But I just think that we should have a discussion during one of our meetings where other people will have the ability to hear what the proposal is and why it's there.
Well-
So,
As you know,
yes.
the Government Study Committee, the
Mm-hmm.
Town Government Study Committee sent out a 2-page
Right?
discussion and, about an alternate member, setting out what they see to be the reason for having an alternate member. And I expect that you're not going to get much more beyond what they say on this in this recommendation. And certainly we could read the recommendation, but
It's not that so much, it's
Out
that
loud.
you have, and as is your right as chairman, and also because we deputize you, you have responded to that, and I think that's appropriate. But then if we all each respond to it, they're going to get the responses, but none of this is going to be in the public. The debate on whether or not this is appropriate is not happening in the public view, and I think it should. You know, if we're talking about changing the composition of one of the major boards of town, this is a debate that must happen where people can actually have the opportunity to watch it and understand what's going on. And I see you nodding.
Yeah. Well, no, I agree with you completely. I mean, in my way of expressing things, simply put, I mean, the people of Milton elected a planning board. They understood
Yeah.
they elected. I would assume most people understand they have elected their planning board. And to then find out at some point in time, well, you didn't elect all of your planning board. Well, how were we to know that?
But the
Yeah.
town meeting would
I mean-
have to.
Yes, it would eventually have to go to town meeting. I'm just wondering, because
if
it would be a
it-
bylaw change,
Yeah.
but I'm just wondering how it gets from here to town meeting.
Well,
What's the
that's-
steps in the process? And that would be helpful to know.
Again, my understanding or my experience at town meeting, there's a lot of recommendation that happens by the time it gets to town meeting, and it becomes more of a formality,
A rubber stamp, you mean?
a rubber stamp. I mean, by the time, in which I agree with you, Emily, a lot of discussion has happened, and like you're expressing, it seems like it's happening behind the scenes. So a town that elected a planning board is going to find out there's going to be a change to their planning board that isn't in the public view,
And I don't absolutely,
if that should happen.
yeah, and I absolutely do not want to knock the work of the Town Government Study Committee. I know all their meetings are public meetings, they're all posted. I understand that, but when they come to and you know, people can attend and listen in, but when it comes to the point of a recommendation about a change in a major board, I think that part of the discussion would benefit by being televised. I mean, the warrant committee recommendations or their first crack at the budget were all televised last night. We're televised, school committee, Board of Selectmen. I just think at the point that we're discussing this, there should be some sort of back and forth televised discussion.
Purely curious, how did the government study group come formulated? Were they
Haven't
appointed?
formed, this is a possible recommendation.
I mean, not-
they
not-
Oh,
haven't-
town meeting, it was a town meeting vote.
The town meeting
Yeah,
voted
yeah.
this committee.
Last-
I mean, they
last
threw
spring?
together
Yes.
anything that came to mind. They're considering all kinds of different things, and this is just a possibility, and they'd like the input of the planning board on the possibility.
Which
And-
is great, and I agree we should have
it
that.
seems
yeah.
to me that we can discuss it without them, because we know exactly what they say. And we can put it up for discussion on the 28th, and we can discuss it and
All
come
right.
up with a determination of whether we support it or don't support it.
Then let's do that on the 28th, and once again, invite them to join us.
And we'll invite them to join
Well,
us,
and the
but
Carroll
if
Brook
we can
Convocation.
have a specific time, because one thing they don't like to do, no one likes to do, is sit around for
Absolutely agreed,
sometimes
yeah.
hours,
Like an
waiting for a chance to,
So if we don't have anything on our, do we have anything on our agenda yet for the 28th? Can we put them first?
we have a public hearing.
At what time?
6:45.
But
You
We
you actually
do-
have all of your,
The zoning
four
article.
or five zoning articles coming
Okay.
first.
So we could do it at 8.
Yeah, we could give them 8. That would work.
We don't need the whole committee. Al, can't we just invite the chairman to come? So
We
us-
could invite anyone who would like to come from their committee.
Okay.
And I will say that
Some may not want to, and that's fine.
they may not want to, certainly, but I mean, there's no reason we can't discuss it. We know what their reasoning is, and
No, I agree. I think we need to discuss it and come to our formal recommendation back to them. But it would be nice if we could have a back and forth a little bit, a public presentation of what they're asking and why, and then we can discuss it, so.
well,
Yes.
they're not asking, they're saying, let's discuss whether or not we should ask.
Did they put that in as an article for town meeting?
I don't believe so, but I haven't seen all the articles, so we should ask Gene Wilson.
I have that list, I just don't remember it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so
Yeah, I don't
that's
know the answer to that.
Bill, 8 o'clock
28th?
on the 28th, and we will invite them to
To join us.
come and join us in front of a live television audience unless the selectmen decide that,
You'll be taped, they'll be live, unless Mike wants to split it again, and all bets are off.
all right.
Okay. Is our
Now,
public hearing people here?
now we're going to do our public hearing on the assisted living residence development article, which the planning board submitted as an article for inclusion in May's town meeting warrant. And under the law, even though it's our article, we have to develop a
We just
recommendation
run these off? Go
as to
on.
whether or not we think the article should be approved by town meeting, or whether or not it should be approved with amendment, or whether possibly it should be simply disapproved. Those are our, I think, our options. So, Mr. Clark, you want
I want to tell you what I
to
just
start
handed
things
you.
off?
Tell you what I just handed the board. You have in front of you the red line of what went before town meeting in October, and the changes that came out of that came in now for
It's not
this
this
year.
thing. Oh, it's this thing.
That's the red line from October.
All right.
That's taking October and putting the red line to it.
Sort of red line,
Well, you're right.
without the red.
It's right, without the red.
Gray line.
Okay.
And the latest that you turned into the selectmen for the warrant article.
All right. Now, I think that we'll have Mr. Corcoran and a potential assisted living developer tell us about what they think of this article and how it might fit into their plans.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ned Corcoran, attorney on behalf of the Grailia Group, which is the developer proponent for the assisted living off of Randolph Avenue in Milton. I'm joined by Jason Robertson, who's a representative of the Grailia Group, and I think was before the board last year when the board was considering the article the first time. I think I can safely say on behalf of the Grailia Group that they are pleased with the language of the article. We worked hard together after town meeting to adjust its provisions to make it more general in some respects, to address concerns with respect to affordable housing, and there's an affordable measure in here that the Grailia Group is able to meet. It is looking carefully at whether or not it can increase the 5% percentage in any way. At this point, it doesn't see its ability to do so, but we do understand the concerns among many in town for affordable housing in general and for affordability with respect to provision of assisted living, particularly for the less fortunate citizens of the town. So we're looking very carefully at that. As part of the project, as you know, that we're taking on the significant reconstruction of the former dump access road as part of the signalized intersection that's identified here, and that is a pretty expensive undertaking. So it affects the issues with respect to profitability and cost that would be driven in some ways by the affordable side. So there's a little bit of an ability to trade off affordable numbers for some of that work. And and whatnot. But we're looking, there is a 5% set aside in here for affordability. We're looking at other ways to contribute to affordable in the community. It's outside the four corners of the zoning, but with respect to the broader development of the property itself. There is a house on the property that may be vacant and could be, I think Paul Sullivan, who's worked with us as well, has identified the potential that we could move that house potentially across the street. It's a two-family, might be able to create 2 units of affordable housing with a donation to the town of the house. The town would have to obviously seek sources of revenue to build it out and make it more habitable for the purposes, but it's a potential for an additional 2 units that could come from this process. So with that, I think we're pretty pleased with the outcome of the work that was done by the board right up until after Christmas, and we would urge the board to vote favorable recommendation to the warrant committee and to town meeting with respect to the bylaws that's been presented. Open it
Now,
up.
what is, I think that the interest at the last town meeting, and this was, there was an article on assisted living at the last town meeting in October, and it was referred back to the planning board, and the issues, as I recall them, were certain, too much specificity, which has been addressed, and then affordable housing, and your suggestion for affordability, or the suggestion we have in this, was suggested as something you could do in an ALRD. 5% of the units shall be set aside for eligible recipients of government or other subsidies such as PACE, GAFC, or similar subsidies available to persons of low or moderate incomes with limited assets, or such other substitute provision as may be approved by the planning board. Now, this is something, Jason, that you, presumably this is what you do in Stoughton, is that right?
We, in Stoughton, we're not obligated to provide any affordable units. We do so because we thought it was right for the market, because the deal could absorb that. I think we were there today with Deborah Felton from Fuller Village, and there's 8 affordable units out of the 91 in Stoughton. That was built about 5 years ago. 3 of our deals are 55% affordable. So we're not afraid of affordability. We deal with it all the time. Those 3 deals were developed using tax credits. We sold tax credits to...
You say 3 to 5 or 55? 55?
3 of our deals are 55% affordable.
Okay, and those were developed with tax credits?
Those were developed with tax credits, so they...
And tax credits are a form of government subsidy?
They're a government subsidy. It allows us to get our debt service low enough where we can support those units. We don't have that here. This is private equity, private debt. So that's the rub with how do we accomplish what we need to accomplish for our investors, for ourselves, for the bank. How do we accomplish what the town wants to see? So it's a balancing act that, these 5 units just come straight off the bottom line. So every unit we give to affordable housing, as much as we like to do it, it's a balancing act that's, that we don't have with the tax credit deals. So we're trying to work with the town. I think, would I like to do more? I would, but it's financially difficult to do when you're reimbursed half of the market rate rent. That's the dilemma.
So you've discussed this with the director of Fuller Village and other interested?
I've tried to reach out to everyone that spoke at the town meeting, just done everything I can to get their input. It doesn't mean we're in agreement 100%, but I've tried to be proactive so that we don't end up...
Well, I think that the town meeting is going to be interested in how you get here. So I think that it will be a matter discussed.
It's obviously of significant interest, given broader affordability issues in the town and given specific interest for ensuring opportunity for affordable housing for senior citizens, who in an affordable context don't have income. So the issue of how you measure income from an affordable perspective is different than you would in a normal affordable housing scenario. But you have a significant number of seniors with less means who qualify for some of these subsidies and who will be requiring affordable services. And so it is certainly in the town's interest and in the developer's interest to maximize their ability to provide those units. And we are working as diligently as we can with multiple services and speaking with, we've had several conversations with Ms. Felton and others about how we can get there.
I think it's important to point out as well that there are people with means who need this service. There's someone that came to our Stoughton facility recently who lived in Milton for 50 years and asked to go to Stoughton. She has the means, but has nowhere to go in this town. So I think that's important as well, that this is still going to be 90 to 95% market rate, and there's people that can pay for it and need that service in this town. I think, affordability is absolutely important. Our company understands that 40% of our total units are affordable, but it's important to remember that there are many people in this town who have to leave because this isn't available.
Okay.
There's one other large beneficiary in the town I think it's important to point out, and that's the BID Milton Hospital. There's a whole catchment volume of people who leave the Milton Hospital in terms of service, because when they move out of Milton to an affordable housing facility elsewhere, the ambulance takes them to the next closest hospital, and it's not the Milton Hospital. So there's a fairly large percentage of the Milton population that ceases to use the services available to them at the Milton Hospital with the docs over there. And so, that's an important institution. It's important for the town to support that institution. And I think it's an institution that is growing, but it's an area of growth and an important set of customers that they need to take care of in the town. And it affects many seniors who have long-term relationships with the hospital and with the docs who work at the hospital, who all of a sudden are no longer available, have access to them, at least for urgent and emergent care. So that's not a direct effect of this, but I think it's an important consideration to think about.
Questions by the board or Mr. Clark?
You did mean assisted living, not affordable?
Yes, assisted living. When you leave, because we don't have the assisted living level of service available in Milton, those people leave town. And when they leave town, the closest hospital is often the Quincy Medical Center, South Shore Hospital. It's not the Milton Hospital, the BID Milton, as it's now known.
Yes.
I know that we are requiring you to use the access road as the point of access, and given the difficulty I've seen large vehicles getting up that road, up the road that's currently used to get to Horseplay, that makes a lot of sense. But I wonder if you've actually talked with the Board of Selectmen or the DPW about using that access road, because they may have different opinions from the planning board. And it would be worth, before you get to town meeting and that question is raised, it would be worth checking in with them on that.
That's an important consideration. I don't know whether you have. I haven't had a specific conversation with them. And, also whether or not there's availability of other sources of funds to pay for construction work that would be necessary to make that road fully available for public, as a public way.
We have talked to them, and I think they concurred with the planning board that that was the way to go for safety reasons, and they understand that we would be back in front of them to move that forward. That's under their purview. So
Right.
Other?
They've had cursory discussions with the board but not official
Yes.
discussions yet.
Right.
We brought the issue up to Mr. Lynch at DPW. Nothing has been formally done. It's more, let's see that we get this in place, and if it looks like it's going to happen, then we'll take on the issue of the road. We've had the cursory stuff. They understand it, we understand it. It's now just, if we're going to move this forward, now we're going in and talk to them officially.
All right. Other board? Okay, who else wants to be heard on the assisted living development, proposed zoning? Well, I think that,
And I have one other thing. If
you have something?
Yes, I have something if nobody wishes to speak.
I
From the
see no
audience?
one
You
wishing
know?
to speak. I mean, they may wish to speak, but they're
But
not.
they're not raising their hands.
They're not trying very hard.
I wanted to say that I think the point about supporting BID Milton is an important one. And for full disclosure, I used to be an incorporator there. I'm not sure what the status of the former incorporators is at the moment with the change. But when we think of commercial in this town, we tend to think of our business districts. And one of the things that we're looking at as we look at the visioning for the master plan is, in fact, our largest employers are not found in the commercial districts. They're the educational institutions in town, and they're Milton Hospital. And I think, and of course the town itself, you know, the schools, the townside police and fire and all of that. And I think the idea of having something that is relatively low impact, that complements an established institution, makes a lot of sense. So I think that's an important point. And I'm pleased that you brought that up.
All right, now, anyone else? It seems to me that this is a well-drafted article. We were charged by the town meeting to take some action with the article that was sent back last October, and we have taken the action and made a proposal. Affordability possibly is still in play, but I would suggest that we determine that we will recommend this article to the town meeting as being worthy of approval.
Mr. Chairman, I will recommend, or I will move that the planning board recommend a yes vote to town meeting.
All right, now, a second.
Second?
All right, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. So a unanimous recommendation from the planning board in favor of this article.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I apologize for being late.
It was all right. We
stuck in the same traffic.
we had some good filler.
Here we go. I'm pleased to report that the Milton High girls basketball team beat Brookline tonight 41-29 to close out their
Excellent.
season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very good.
Great
And
defense, huh?
did your daughter have a triple-double?
Came close in the first half.
Good job.
All right, now, 17 Canton Avenue. A request for an amended site plan approval.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Board. I thought this would be about a 5-minute item, but I think that it may be longer than that. In the planning for the construction of the building, we failed to realize that we needed backup auxiliary power. And this is no more natural for any type of building. And we occasionally have outages here in Milton. I am glad that during the last storm that the outages were spread around, and for the most part, were relatively brief. The auxiliary power can be done by diesel, by propane, by natural gas, and we are choosing the cleanest, most efficient, quietest, least objectionable, which would be have a natural gas come in and run it. We would expect that this will be operational for anywhere between 8 and 30 hours per year. That assumes that the power outages will occur with about the same frequency as they do now. The pad would be put on a concrete pad so as to minimize the vibration. It would be tested as all such backup generators are tested probably on a weekly basis. And this runs for anywhere between 5 and 12 minutes. We are planning that all of this routine testing would be done during normal daylight hours so that it would not interfere with any of the abutters, any of the neighbors, and is likely to begin and end so quickly that they'd be hardly aware of it. I would not say that this will be inaudible from neighbors' houses. It may well be. You have a hum, if you will, from the engine, and this has approximately 72 decibels at 25 feet. I'm sorry, at 21 feet. That would be 7 meters. It comes with an acoustical cover that reduces the noise to this level. And it would also be surrounded by shrubbery, which hopefully would absorb, deflect some of the noise, and I'm not sure exactly how much. Again, I think it would be heard for maybe anywhere from 8 to 30 hours a year. The rest of the time, it would be absolutely silent. There was another minor issue that needs to be addressed, and that is that we would like to have over the entranceway some kind of a canopy that would be approximately 10 feet wide and would be about 1.5 feet high, seeing it from the building. On top of the canopy would go back to the building and would be about 4 feet 7 inches deep. This would be a color chosen to be consistent with the building and the architecture. And it would bear no commercial names or anything. It would have the number 17 to represent 17 Canton Avenue, so that people would know that it's 17. Again, this was left out of the original design and is necessary to avert people from getting soaking wet going into the building. And I would request that the site plan be modified by for those two points. And I would be glad to answer any questions or address any concerns. I know that there was some emails circulating suggesting that all the final finished trim has not been done. The building is under construction. It was created essentially to replicate what we had there. The final trim, the door is in, but the trim around the door, et cetera, has not been finished when the building is completed. All the trim and niceties of the old building will be on the new building. I think also the question was raised where the air conditioning would be, and again, the air conditioning is exactly where the air conditioning was in the old building, and that is facing the building. It's to the left between the building and the fence at the edge of the property. I think with those that additional information, the neighbors will continue to be quite pleased with what we are doing and the way it will come out.
Question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
This is an office building.
Yes.
Correct. So you're having a generator there. Do you feel that they're going to be working at night? That necessitates a generator?
Usually, when you have a blackout of power, you have the generator going 24/7. It keeps the computers going. It keeps the lights going in case the lights have to be turned on. It's not something that you typically would use only on, only during the business hours.
So the generator is going to be sized to accommodate the building in full operation?
Minimal operation. Minimal operation. I had breakfast this morning with a friend who lives in Wellfleet, and he has a backup generator that serves a fraction of his house, and it actually has a higher decibel reading than what is being proposed. And during the time of the outage, he was unable to watch television because that took too much power or something or other. But this will provide for emergency electricity when the power is out.
Do you have a picture of the size, not the kilowatt size, but the actual physical size of the generator?
Yes, I submitted a copy of the spec sheet. I think it ran
we
for
just got
5
this tonight.
pages.
We just got this tonight. There's not a lot of space between the building and the area to the left of the building.
No, there is not very much space. It is close. And most of the area around the building is landscaped, so that the landscaping around the building will, it's improve its attractiveness, and that was a factor in where we are planning to locate the backup generator, as well as locate having located the air conditioning in the same spot.
So it would be a big generator if we were going to keep this building completely electrified.
It's not that big a generator. It is.
Is this?
We lost our power, and we had, my wife was on oxygen, so we had a power failure, so Edison brought in a small gasoline
A
generator.
gasoline, and they're
And it was-
noisier.
No,
and-
it was not noisy.
Really?
No, it was not noisy.
Wow.
So
Okay.
maybe, not noisy. But it was gasoline.
I believe, how many, does
You
it
ready?
say 300 amps or something along that line?
The center is 400 amps.
400 amps.
this is
This
gonna
would
be
have
probably-
400 amps of service.
This might make it easier. This is a, sorry I got late, but here's a drawing showing the proposed location over here in the shrubbery. And I've got some small ones, I can pass them around so you can look at them.
Here's Canton Ave and here's High Street.
That is correct.
That's right. Yep.
And this is where that new house is, oh no, this is the street.
We have a garage over here that we're behind, and I believe there is another garage in this area, right over here.
This is the area would be here. We have a garage here, we have a garage here. And it would be behind the building here. This is all landscaped, parking and landscape area.
Is this where that sewer line is? No one knows where the sewer line is?
The sewer line was more in the middle. And
Here's a small one you can see.
No, my sewer line, Bob, not your sewer, mine.
Yeah.
Okay,
Goes in your parking lot.
Actually, if you could pass those smaller rounds around, I think that'd be helpful for everybody.
I'll hold it, sure.
Thank you.
The new
Yeah.
generator sits on a concrete pad.
yes,
I assume that the pad is larger than the footprint of the generator itself.
yes, it is. Yes.
Is there any consideration of putting up a block wall around two sides, the two sides that face the butters?
Well, they have shrubbery, if you look.
Well, but my point is the block wall would substantially deflect the sound more than shrubbery.
And that could be done
Then you
to
could hide the block wall with the
echo
shrubbery.
it away from,
It would
Either
come
that
back
or
at the building.
It might create quite an echoing effect.
Back at the building itself, maybe, yeah, but not to the
That's
neighbors.
what the idea of the shrubbery was to absorb it. But yeah.
Yeah, that could
You
be.
could put absorbing material on the inside face of the block wall so that it doesn't
Yep.
reverberate back. I mean, it doesn't seem like a very much of an expensive block wall on top of the pad.
It's not a cost factor. I think that if you're 12 feet away from a garage or something like that, the garage would act as a
Yeah, but I
a
mean,
buffer.
no, but I mean, yeah, but you're putting in the generator, so I don't think it should be up to the guy that lives next door to facilitate a buffer for you.
No, I mean, if it's already in existence.
Oh, I understand that, but
Yeah.
he may take his
And
garage down.
maybe in the back where,
Yeah,
you know,
that's-
where there is no natural,
The side facing where you point out existing garage and then the back side of your property line, it'd be nice if you had the two-sided block wall. I think that would help a great deal with the sound.
okay.
I think the guy that lives on the north, and I think Mr. O'Neill would probably like it if you put that wall to reflect the sound from hitting.
I mean, if
That'd be fine.
it came up maybe like 18 inches above the top of the generator, I mean, that would deflect a lot of the sound heading in that direction,
No, that's a
if
good
not all of
idea.
it virtually.
That's a good idea, and we'll incorporate it.
Then you could
You don't have
hide,
any problem with that, Steve?
and the shrubs would hide the,
Sure,
if the
we'll hide
block
the
wall
wall.
was unpleasant, it would hide the block wall.
Yes.
And there's a requirement that it's tested once a week?
Yeah, most of these go on an automatic testing, once a week. It might be, Tuesday at 2 o'clock or something like that. 2:05, self-test is over. Nobody is there when it's tested. In other words, it's just a self-test that,
Sounds interesting.
Does this generator, does it have to be manned? Does somebody have to go out and start it when the power's on?
no,
Is it
no,
an automatic
no,
transfer
it's
switch?
all.
Completely automatic.
Completely automatic.
Automatic.
Right.
Natural gas fed
But
generator.
electrically, there's an automatic transfer switch, the electrician.
Yeah, when the power is lost, it kicks on.
It kicks on. It kicks on.
And it
And
does- it
and the
does-
worst thing about a generator is if you lose the power and it's not working, it doesn't do much help. That's why it does an automatic,
Right.
test, maybe once a week or something along that line.
Are you sure you have to test this thing once a week?
Well, maybe it'd be
It
once a
does-
month, whatever
It
they.
does a self-test
Sounds a little
once a
better.
week.
We have one out back, and
I know.
we do not test it once a week.
It is
Well,
supposed to
this-
be tested once a month, though.
Once a month. It's
Maybe,
only a month old, and it's only been on once, and that was to start
All
a
right,
test up.
so once
It
a
is
month,
not
I think,
going.
is probably.
Well, is there some law that requires it? I'm not aware of that there's some,
no,
Mass general law.
I believe I'd have to check the specs on it, but I believe the generator automatically
Tests
does a
itself.
self-test, sends a signal into the building to make sure everything is okay, and then runs for about 2 minutes and then shuts down.
well, it's like the generator I had, you couldn't even hear it.
Yeah.
It was gasoline. They had a fuel truck come every other day and fill it up.
Yeah, no, they are.
It'd be gas.
They're surprisingly quiet. I mean, the whole thing is 72 decibels and 400 amps. That's significant.
What's the noise level of the air conditioners?
I have no idea.
Probably in the area of around 40 to 50 decibel. There's no, it's just a fan, so there's no engine running.
Well, I mean, there are 4 units, right?
That is correct.
And there's some sort of units.
I'm sorry.
I mean, they have a compressor in them, don't they?
They do.
So they have a
They have a
fan and a
compressor and a
compressor
fan.
and,
The fan is cooling the compressor, and
right.
they start up depending on, temperature.
And they're scattered around the building, the outside.
So there are 4 of them in a row.
There are 4 of them in a
Four in
row
a row.
located.
Go on to sheet L2 and look sort of in the middle, about 2 inches up from
Right near the parking lot?
the bottom.
Oh, the bottom?
Yeah.
Oh, I see them, okay.
Yeah.
So are they near anyone?
Yeah,
They're near someone's house?
right on the property line.
Yeah, it's on the property line where it has been forever. It is, I would imagine that it would be, 60 feet from
Well, from the house?
the house?
Yeah,
And it would,
50 anyhow, I would say yes.
yeah, and it would be probably 150 feet from any other house.
Is this a bulkhead here? Leading into the basement?
Yes, it is.
I think you maybe, as far as the one-week testing, I mean, I would assume the manufacturer probably recommends something, and when you say it automatically, I can't believe that it's constructed to test once a week exclusively.
I'm looking
sure
for that
It
information
could be
right
set for once a week,
We-
or once
we
a
would-
day, or once a month.
We would go with the manufacturer's
I mean, in
recommendation.
fairness, we don't want, I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to set it so that, you can't test it to keep up on the maintenance of the equipment itself, but yet we don't want to do it more than we need to.
No, we would go in accordance with the manufacturer's
So
recommendation.
it'd be good to find out what that is.
What?
It'd be good to find out what is the manufacturer's recommendation for testing.
I will get back to you on that.
There are a lot of computer records in the building. It's a bunch of attorneys going to operate in there, nursing homes and so forth. So you really have to make sure that you protect your documentation,
That's right. And with any
That's
type
why the
of
compressor-
computers, you want
or the generator.
backup.
On the canopy,
Pardon me?
the canopy that
Yes.
you're planning to add, just to switch subjects slightly to your second element.
Sure.
I see that you have this
Yeah.
elevation SK1
That's
here.
correct.
I don't see any elevations showing it actually attached to the front of the building. I'm assuming it's going on this entrance, is that
would be-
correct?
No, no.
No,
it's
elevations
going on-
as a plan.
It's going on the side, not.
Ah, okay,
Oh, God.
that
we
was
wouldn't put it on the
confusing,
front.
yes, exactly. Okay,
Yeah.
that's was a little
Yes,
confusing,
no,
the
that, in the
description.
front of the building, it would
Okay.
be,
Look on sheet L2, you'll see where they.
Yeah,
It'd be much
that's,
more
well, you know, I was looking at that thinking, that must be where it
Right up
was.
near
but-
the-
Yeah, okay, I didn't see that text, thank you. And then just one thing that, you know, has triggered my curiosity, and I don't drive by that building every day, so I didn't see it at every stage of construction. I sort of caught it at every couple of months. I note on A2, underneath that first elevation, it says the front portion of the first floor of the existing building will be reused in the renovated building with supplemental framing to meet current building code requirements. And what I don't know, it appears from my sort of once a month or once every couple of months passing, it almost looks like it's a brand new building.
It is.
As opposed to
The,
one that had been partially.
it will be much cleaner than the old building, but the same features and the same trimmings will be on it.
I understand that. I was just confused that a set of drawings that we approved that specifically stated that a portion of the existing building would be reused ended up being a whole new building. And I'm wondering what the process was on that, how that ended up happening.
The Historical Commission decided that because of the poor condition of the existing, that could be taken down as
Yeah.
long as we kind of replicated the facade of the original building.
Okay, so we just never received that
we did.
update.
That was approved.
Okay.
This is.
What we were
Should have.
planning to do
Yes.
was to pick it up and move it over.
Right, that's what I remembered, and so it was a distinct puzzle. In fact, I think it was a distinct puzzle to all of us at
And
one
then we're
point.
gonna put in a foundation and pick it up and move it back. And the condition of it was such that if we tried to pick it up and move it, it would
I think in,
disintegrate.
yeah, I think in future, it might have been nice to have had a formal announcement to the planning board that the conditions that we approved had changed, or the circumstances of the conditions that we had approved had changed, because certainly my understanding was that a portion of the building was going to be capped as part of this project, and to have it confirmed that that is not in fact what happened, it's a little disconcerting that we received no formal notification. So I think in future we would appreciate that.
Very good. Yes, sir.
The exterior of the building that I've driven by recently, are you guys telling us that you're gonna take down the clapboard you put up and put up this trim? And
That is
and there's a
correct.
band board
That
across
is
the top?
correct.
You have the clapboard right up to the underside of the gutter, you have it right up to the door, so you're gonna take down
There
some of
is-
the
there
clapboard.
is
You're gonna
going
cut
to
out some of
be-
the clapboard that you've got up.
Yes, there is going to be I believe they call it an architrave, which is that white piece that you're looking at across the top.
So in order to-
On both levels.
In order to do that, you'd have to take the
Take
clapboard
the
that you have,
clapboard off.
maybe the top 4 rows or something, I don't know.
Yeah, whatever it takes, in that, I think the actual building now, in that picture, they're showing that white facade coming down to the top of the windows. And in the actual building as we have it now, because the floors are higher, there's a little more space, so it will come down, but it may not reach the windows. But it will have that same look.
Because you have side lights here and stuff with the clapboard around them, so you gotta take all that stuff down and
The side lights we have now, and there is trim, but the actual finished trim kit has not been applied. And that will be that fluted
Yeah.
with the dental across the
Yeah,
top.
and again, to do that, you'd have to take the clapboard that you have.
No, we already have room for it. The clapboard is up to a flat trim, and this is going to fit over it.
Can I apologize? I have a very difficult problem insofar as I'm supposed to be on the second floor and the lower level at the same time.
You double booked?
Double booked.
It's half the rate then.
I didn't say that.
Well, you can, we are taping this, and we've got some folks who want to be heard.
Definitely.
And
So I should be
can-
back in a very few, short.
You come back, but it is taped, and so you will, we'll fill you in.
Another comment similar to the comment I made on the generator. This is where the air conditioning units are presently.
That is correct.
Apparently, they previously were over here someplace.
I'm sorry.
At a different point in time, they were in a different location.
No, they were along.
There were many
the-
units.
Yeah, they
and
were along that
There was one
fence.
unit, not where that, not in that location, but probably closer to the 80s section that used to exist.
Is this all the units presently? Is that all?
Correct.
So
That
that'd
is
be-
correct.
Yeah.
All right, then.
So we had, the original place is where we put them. The majority of them were always there. There was one, sort of closer to the white fence on that section.
The comments I made on the generator, as you heard, with a block wall and maybe at least two sides here.
Right.
I'm suggesting as well that maybe you put in like a 4 or 5 foot high fence here,
There is a 6-foot fence
6 foot on the property line.
on the
Yeah.
property line. And the distance.
Not
from-
our property. It's not our fence.
Well, that's what I'm saying, suggesting maybe you put a 4 foot fence right,
There is,
it would,
Oh,
if you
Up
can
against
imagine, between the
I'm
generator.
not sure you've introduced yourself to our
I'm sorry.
viewing audience.
I apologize.
Why don't you both do it?
Oh, go ahead, please.
My name is Stephen Lerner. I'm the general contractor on the job, and this is the owner of the property. This is Rick Shaka.
Out of uniform.
What do you mean?
All attorneys dressed like this?
Yeah, no, I'm a corporate attorney. I don't see people. So I don't have to dress up.
Like a pathologist?
Yeah, no, I
You
hope
don't
not.
see patients?
I'm behind the scenes. So, yeah, I'm Rick Shocker, I'm the owner, and, I'm sorry I'm late, but parking is at a minimum here tonight.
On that area that you're speaking, if I can point it out here, the air conditioning units are here. The distance from this inside corner of the building to the fence, I'm going to say, is 6 or 7 feet. The air conditioning units take up approximately 3 feet of it and run along this way. There is a fence where you're seeing this boundary line. There is a fence there now. And then there is a row of shrubs that it was planted. Some of them are in, and then the snow came and we had to stop.
who owns the fence?
The fence is owned by the neighbor, I believe it's Mrs.
Yeah, again, I'm suggesting a fence in front of the units, and I know the first thing you're gonna say, well, is how do I access my units? Well, you could certainly put something up with gates,
Okay.
continuous gates. Because again, like when you commented before that, well, he's got a garage there, so his back of his garage blocks the sound. Well, but that isn't his responsibility.
Okay.
He didn't put the generator in. If he wants to take his garage down, then who's responsible to block it now?
Wouldn't that be a change at a later
I
date?
just want to finish. And then, if he takes his garage down, who's responsible to go back and say, well, maybe you should have put something in there earlier? But again, if you put just a short fence there, again, just to buffer the sound some, and I know that the air conditioning units probably make a lot less sound than the generator. I think that would be very helpful.
So comment on that?
Sure.
What's the point? There's a big fence in front of it.
Sound.
They were there all the time before. The prior owners didn't have to put it up.
We're improving.
Improving what?
You
We're
say
improving from the
there's
prior.
a fence there?
Sound.
I don't get
No, there was
it.
never a fence around air conditioners. And what's the point in putting a fence before a fence? It's a very tight area.
It's like putting air conditioners in the well on top of the building. The
I'm really
material
not-
around the air conditioner buffers the sound. In other
Sound.
words, it's just a question of sound.
Fan sound.
Doing what he's suggesting that in order to make the sound last, you could take some steps. The sound of the air conditioners. You could take
Sound of air
steps to
conditioners.
minimize the air conditioner sound. I mean, you say that you act as though, I've heard air conditioners, and air conditioners make sound. And, And the less sound they make, the better.
Well, isn't that, related to the type of air conditioner that is put there, and they make them these days, and talking about improvements, they make them where they're virtually soundless, right? I mean, what was built in 1980 and what's built in 2013, the technology it changes every year. So it's an area where putting a fence up against the air conditioners is somewhat impractical, and you have a 6-foot fence.
Because you're saying there's not enough room to let them get the air they
Yeah,
need.
it just doesn't seem like a smart intervention, and if the issue is fan noise, it's 2013. Whereas the generator, am I able to comment on that?
Certainly.
Whereas the generator, I can see where you'd want to put something. I wanted to put a fence around it, and my architect thought that wouldn't be acceptable.
What is the decibel level of 4 of these things running along
Which ones?
the air conditioners?
It's part of the submission. I'd have to get back to
Well,
you.
we'll take a look.
Yeah.
Well, they're going in and out too. There's 4 zones, and someone might want this one going and this one, so they're going to be clicking on and on.
Simultaneous use is unlikely.
Well, okay, I mean,
When
I'd just
when
be
I do
interested
home
to know-
inspection,
On a hot day,
being a
they'll
home
all be
inspector,
going.
I do see fences as
Sure you
just
do.
to minimize the sound. You can't completely get rid of it.
The
Shrubs don't work.
The attorney's suggesting that the sound is 0, I guess, but you need to bring that
Well,
information back.
The owner is representing
Right.
that the sound is unnoticeable. I mean,
Then you
I've
need-
never seen fences around fences. There's a big fence there and shrubbery, and it seems like an excessive intervention.
Well,
That's my opinion.
we will look and see what the decibel level
you never get out to
of
the
these
field.
things is.
I live in the places
I
where
would
air
like to hear from the
conditioning
public
is.
on the matter of the generator and the
It's just a
canopy.
little extra noise mitigation thing.
Look, it's simple to
think
put a
that
fence
that's
up.
very good.
It just doesn't make sense, is what I'm bringing to the
All right.
conversation.
We'll see what, there are people here who are going to give some ideas or views or opinions. Let's see what they say, and then we'll,
Sure.
continue. All right, who wants to be heard on this
You two could
application?
move back so the others could, the public can
Sure.
move forward, that'd be helpful. If you guys
Come
would
and join
stand
us
up.
at the table, introduce yourself, move your file off the table, whose ever file that is.
Mr. Cruikshank?
Bernie, how are you? I'm Jeff Cruikshank.
Hey, how are you?
We've met before. Hi, guys.
Hi, Jeff.
Good evening.
Hello, Jeff.
I'm here in part because...
And you're Jeff Cruikshank.
I'm Jeff Cruikshank. I live at 21 Canton Avenue, so I'm in a butter.
Ann's husband.
Ann's husband, yes, that's how I'm known in town. I'm Ann Bryan's husband. So we are not as directly impacted as Jeannie Hines, who's 7, she's the fence you've heard about. She's the property right behind this. We're on the corner here. My property comes in along that existing garage line and goes down, what is that, east, down towards High Street.
Why don't you point it out, Bernie?
Is that your garage?
No, that's Jeannie's garage.
Here's High Street here. Jeff's house is right here. I think this is your garage right here, Jeff?
Close, yeah. So I drew my own sketch, but then I got this, so I drew on this. So this is their sketch, and this is Jeannie's garage, and this is my garage, and that's my house right there. I don't know if this is the scale, but it's close. And there is a walkway that goes from my house down toward this property, which is why I came here last time, because my inference was always that that was where the sewer line went. Because there was a dye test done in 1966 by the town that said that our sewer line did show up on High Street, which is all we know, or we knew until recently. So my hope and inference was that my sewer line went down along this property line, around the High Street property, in this tree line down here. But we don't really know. But now we do know. because I went to the Norfolk Registry of Deeds to go jury duty, and I was not needed, so I had nothing to do. So I went to the Registry of Deeds and found the May 1940 easement that gives me an easement down to High Street along that property line. So there is, at the Registry of Deeds, there is dimensions of where that thing goes.
On their property? Yeah.
It's probably on the property that was carved out from our property on High Street, but the truth is we don't exactly know where it is.
The Saunders property?
It's probably carved out of the Saunders property, yes. So there is an easement that I don't think was ever rescinded, so that's an issue. Whether that concrete pad is on it or near it, I really don't know, but it's probably worth figuring out before the concrete gets poured. So that's the issue that's on my mind. I will pass these around. Rick and George Lovely, the architect, have been in email contact, and Rick has assured George Lovely that all the trim that you've heard about will be in place. But this is previous condition and existing conditions, so just so you please keep an eye on it. It's not what was promised, and we're promised that it will be what was promised, but right now it isn't what was promised. We're under construction. We understand that. The canopy is new. I don't know anything about the canopy. I'm pretty sure George doesn't either because he hasn't mentioned it. So I would really like to hear George, our lane's architect, who has been tracking this project really closely, weigh in on the canopy and the appropriateness of that to this building. I understand that there's commercial advantage to having it, but I'm not sure that that's what is the right thing to have in that context. I hope you guys will figure that out with George's help.
We'll figure it out, but about your sewer, you suggest that somehow we're going to figure out if the sewer goes underneath the concrete pad, right?
I'd like to have...
You'd like to figure it out.
I'd like someone to look at the deed that I have a copy of, the easement that shows where the sewer line goes. I'd like to make sure that this is not going to be in conflict with this proposed location. Aside from that, I think this location isn't right. I think it's too close to our property line. It's on our property line, basically. And George suggested it by email to Rick that they move this thing, they tuck it into the corner of the building, which is approximately where these red squares are.
Yeah.
And Rick's response by email was, there isn't room. And maybe there isn't room. There may be room if parking space 1HC, which looks enormous on this plan, isn't quite so big, if that's what that is.
But it's a handicap space, so.
Okay.
But, yeah, it looks like it's a van accessible space.
Okay, so it makes sense to me that if this is a new idea that's been added to the conception of the property since you guys approved it, that we ought to be thinking about where this can sit with the least impact on the neighborhood. And I would say tucked up against that building somewhere is where it would have the least impact on us.
And you say, are you the most impacted or the second most impacted?
Second most.
Second most. And how far away from this are you?
Actually, because Jeannie's garage sits between this thing and her house,
So you think you're the
it
most
might be a
impacted?
tie. It might be a tie, Alex.
Okay.
70 feet?
Okay. All right.
That's a guess.
Let's get the architectural scoop on this. Yes.
Jeff, when you were in Norfolk County,
I was.
did you see any plot plan that
Yes.
delineated where the
Yes.
sewer was?
Yes, I have it.
Depths and
Yes.
ties?
Oh, no depths. I just have, a track of it down through the property. It doesn't say depths,
Do you
unfortunately.
have it with you?
I don't have it with me, but I can get it to you tomorrow.
Because if
Got
this
it.
ever fails, I mean, your only sewer is down here, you're gonna be, you're gonna be,
Well, I think what you should share is sort of the good neighbor efforts we made to figure out where your line was, and Steve can speak to it. mean,
I would be
we-
happy to speak to that,
we
Rick.
were-
I got a
were-
phone call saying that I was on the hook to undo an illegal sewer hookup under their parking lot.
Who made that call? Steve made that call, or did Bob call you? I thought
Bob called me, I'm sorry.
So I really
Bob
don't think
called
it
me.
was Steve.
Bob called me and said, come down because we have, your sewer is tied into our line under the middle of the parking lot. And so I went and said, that's terrible. Not only do I want to fix it, because I have to, but I want to back it out from under your parking lot and your shrubbery, so I don't have to pay to rebuild your parking lot and your shrubbery come the day when that sewer line fails, which has got to be X years old, no one knows. And happily, it turned out that it was a dry well on the property that had been broken into the sewer line, not my sewer line. And thank God we have an honest contractor here who didn't, hold me to that.
We went through, and just to point out, and I'll just point out over here, in looking for that line, because our current sewer line runs from approximately this area to about over here, where it then drops off and goes into
An old septic
into High
system.
Street, septic line.
It's not septic, it's a drain, it's just a water drain.
No, this is septic.
And they hook into the sewer once they get
And it
sewer.
went into the sewer line on High Street. And we found, when we videoed this line, that there was a junction right about over here with a line coming in like this, and we thought it was Mr. Crookshanks.
Right.
Because he had said that it was, and we had
Yeah, I
heard
mean,
that it was, so.
In previous meetings,
Right.
you voiced that it came across into our property, so we assumed, and
I
we
said
went.
that it might, and
Right.
it might
All
well
right,
have.
so on
And
that
then-
information,
and then
we
you
went out
confirmed-
and looked for
Right.
it,
Right.
because
So-
we wanted to make sure we weren't damaging your
We-
your line.
We excavated this area right up here to approximately what we feel is our property line, right in through here. This was all dug up. We went down anywhere from 10 to 15 feet and found a dry well that tied into us. That was an illegal dry well to tie into an actual sewerage line, and we found nothing else in that area. And that's when I think I called you and informed you that we didn't, and, because we had told you if we
Right.
did find it, what it would cost to change it.
Right, and you told me that you had discovered that it was your dry well. The excavation stopped, I think, well short of the property line because there was piles of dirt there, and there are still trees there on that property line.
Right, no, well, yes, but previously, we had excavated all of this. So I would say, this general area here, within 10 feet or so, we have dug out. And there is no asphalt there, it's all been removed and then repacked. And we
Right.
haven't found
So
anything.
the 10-foot margin is, you notice how
Right.
close you came to that pad?
Right.
That's pretty important.
Right.
That's two
I
issues here. What
believe-
is the sewer line, which we just don't know?
Well, you gotta find it out. I mean, now would be the time to find it out. And there are
I
methods,
can
there's
supp- I
technology
can
that,
supply you the plot plan from May of 1940 that says where the sewer line goes.
Well, why don't you do that?
I will do that.
That'd be helpful.
have some civil
And
engineer
apply-
delineate it.
Second issue is, if the sewer line
Distribute-
is not under that concrete pad, I still think it's too close to my house.
Well, we've heard that, and other questions for Mr. Crookshanks? Ed, anyone?
About the air conditioning, Mr. Chairman. If the air conditioning is relatively silent, why not put it over on the parking lot side of the project?
Because it's better suited where it was for 25 years. And when we built it, we put it back where it was.
Right here, Ed? I mean.
Now,
I mean, this